After a chaotic weekend in the crypto markets, TradFi is following suit. We'll be discussing that, everything going on in the financial markets, and much more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us today, everybody. As we get going, hit that like button, smash the living shit out of it. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet. Nothing we say is financial advice, so please do your own research. Kevin, we saw some chaos on Saturday. The news out of the Middle East leading to a big sell-off in the crypto markets. They tried to buy it back a little bit yesterday, but I was texting with you and our buddy Mr. House. I didn't believe it. I said it was a dead cat yesterday, and we're starting to see that play out. Markets have turned south in a hurry. It was weird in TradFi this morning. Markets opened higher. I was like, wait a second, this doesn't make any sense. And right on cue, everything started to sell off. We are now seeing the NASDAQ down 1.5%. The S&P up or down just over 1%. The Dow is down about 0.6. How are you feeling today? It's a weird, uncertain time in the world, in the markets. And so I think it's important that we are here to provide a little bit of just consistency, maybe some rational thought. But how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Obviously, the markets are doing what I personally want. I mean, they benefit my position the way that they're reacting. But I was, I think you and I were the opposite. You were saying how everything was going to be a dead cat bounce. I was worried of what happened earlier on in the day. The market's shooting up an insane amount in the futures market, but it seems like they're selling every single rally, which is typical of dead cat bounce, which we're seeing in crypto, but also in TradFi, right? You see that it's pulled down significantly for the past few days, and then next thing you know, you get a little early morning pump, and then they sell that off just as much. So that's that's something we haven't seen in months. We have not seen that since at least October, right? October when it bottomed out and everything like that. But a lot of the stuff that's happening in the Middle East, that seems to be the headline news that's kind of scaring people in the markets. I would say that it's actually just the headline thing that's causing a lot of problems in the markets. We've been kind of following Asia and everything for the past few months. We talked about the yen carry trade. I think that's what we need to be focused on. That is the scariest thing for equity markets. And it's also going to be, if you're bullish on treasuries, that could absolutely be the thing that brings treasuries squeezing straight up. So I'm very much just staying vigilant here. I'm not really doing too much. I was going to get in on the VIX. Don't feel like getting in on it right now because that's very, it can go either way at this point. But I guess the narrative of OPEX is a little bit shaky right now. I don't necessarily know which way the market's going to go, but I can tell you the direction it's probably going to head if these things do play out.
Yeah, I'm watching it now as gold is hitting a new all-time high. It wicked to one yesterday, back down, but if things hold true, it'll close a new all-time high just under 2,400. So Peter Schiff you and your buddy Peter Schiff having
wrong.
some night there. He's wrong. All right.
He's wrong on this one, though. I will say this. A lot of people who are buying gold, let's put it this way. If we get into a currency crisis and China was the one that was buying a ton of gold, I guarantee, I won't guarantee you because obviously not financial advice, but I will say this. If they're going to need some cash on hand because the world economy is booming, the U.S. is booming, but we're not seeing the trade pick up in terms of exports, they're going to need to pay off a lot of those debts. We know that Country Garden's also coming up next month. I think that gold is going to be something you're going to see sell off, but that's just my opinion. One asshole's opinion. Everyone's got an asshole. They all got opinions, and mine's no different. So just take that as you will. That came out wrong, but we're going to roll with it.
We're going to roll with it. Let's take a look at the week ahead. We have earnings kicking off with a lot of financial institutions, Goldman, Schwab, M&T Bank today. Throughout the week, we'll continue to see that trend. And the next week, we really kick off earnings for tech. So a lot to discuss there. On the economic front, no real inflation or jobs data this week besides initial jobless claims on Thursday, but we do have some retail sales data that came in above expectation this morning. So, people still spending a lot of money. They're putting it on credit cards. Not the best thing in the world. We'll get some. I'm really interested to talk about the housing market as well. We'll get some housing data throughout this week. Tomorrow will be housing starts and building permits, and on Thursday we'll have existing home sales. Expectations are low on those, but I think it could come in under what we are planning on. We've seen a lot of data. Kev, if you want to pull this up now, we can start with credit cards, but delinquencies at an all-time high. That's not, I don't know. I'm not the smartest person in the world, Kevin, but I would say when it comes to just the health of the consumer, that's probably a bad thing. Am I right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you know what the worst part about all this is? You can't. I don't know why it's not highlighting when I'm going. Oh, I guess it is highlighting when I'm going over right here in Q4 of 2023. More credit card balances were 30 plus, 60 plus days past due compared to any other period in history. That was what, 5 months ago, right? 6 months ago, if you want to go even further back into like November of 2023. And everyone was like, "Oh no, you know, consumer is booming. It's a great holiday spending season." And it's like, all right, well, if they were 30, 60 days back overdue back then, fucking what is it now? I can't wait to get that
Well,
data, right?
we talked about this. Like when we talked about it too, when it came to everyone and their fucking payment plans for every little thing, right? Like you buy a toaster, hey, you can break that up into 4 payments. I'm sorry, what? Like, what are we talking about here? So that's pretty wild. I'm seeing I saw like a story today about auto insurance and how like less and less people are insured because it's so damn expensive. My wife, earlier this year got into an accident. Unfortunately, she's okay, but the woman didn't have auto insurance. Like this shit is problematic as well. So about the housing market, we're seeing less demand for houses for new mortgages than we have since I believe the early 2000s. Like even worse than the financial crisis. No one is buying a new house. What's that gonna do to prices? Prices are gonna go down. Well, guess what? For the majority of people, their biggest asset is their home, and their home price going down is not ideal. So I feel like we've been like screaming into the wind forever about this, and things are starting to come to fruition. I think it's going to keep heading that way, but we've been proven wrong before, so I don't know, Kev.
I don't think we've been proven wrong. I think we've been proven early, right? I think that's the number one thing because what we've said in the past, and I don't like to brag at all, but we can go through this with a fucking track record, and I will, get down and pull a list out of my ass that says that we said this, 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 and this in 5, 6 months later, everything one of those things happened, right? We said that CZ was going to jail. We said that FTX was going to collapse. We said that there was going to be what else did we say? Oh, it's actually on the agenda today. FDUSD with Binance. Someone finally realized, hey, why does Binance mint all these coins and then 5 seconds later they're trading in the highest volume for the top traded pair across all of crypto? Well, it's because fraud. There's a lot of signs that are out there. We've called them. We said that the consumer is strapped right now. We also said that there's probably going to be the dollar that's going to rally significantly. And we're kind of seeing that right now. I do want to talk about the yen carry trade because I think that is the black swan, the one that I've been looking for, and and again, I didn't know if it was going to be the black swan or not. I think it is. We can we can talk about Iran and all that stuff, but I do think that it does come down to finances and economics as the number one thing. Asia is in a very bad place right now. I don't know if people know this, but the yuan numbers that you're seeing on TradingView aren't the actual the numbers and the values of what the yuan is. Offshore, it's trading at a very different price than what it's trading on TradingView. So that's one thing, right? We also know that the yen is getting absolutely out of control. I mean, the yen is absolutely losing so much value each and every day to the dollar. I'm going to pull up the yen chart right now. We can see that we are currently sitting at about, on that pop up, there we go, that we're currently sitting at the highest level, I guess the lowest level the yen is against the dollar since 1989, 1990. I mean, I'm not going to go that far back in time, but you can see that it's just kept on climbing and climbing. If we look at back, we're here in January, we were at 140, 140 yen to $1 US. Now we're at 154 yen to the US dollar in a matter of a few months. And in the past month, it's shot up from, let's see, go to the monthly. It's an astounding number as well. We were trading around 151. We're at 154. So last month, Yeah, we're in the 140s the month prior, and then we get to the 150s, and it's like each and every day it's making a new low. And again, this is inverted, so this is obviously making new lows. Going up higher is making new lows against the dollar. It's losing value. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because Asia is an absolute clusterfuck right now. Their equity markets are at all-time highs. Not as much now; they pulled back a little bit, but they're at all-time highs for a period of time in Japan. So a lot of money that was flowing out of China into Japan's markets, right? Now they're raising rates, and on top of that, their yen is losing value. Who is one of the largest holders of US treasuries? Japan. Who's the other? China. They need cash. What do? They're going to sell off gold. They're going to sell off treasuries, US treasuries, especially. And what does that do? That causes the United States to be at a bit of a deficit because they need those treasuries to operate and to run. If they're seeing the largest holders of that amount of debt, just absolutely saying, we got some problems over here. We'll be back later. And the U.S. is like, well, fuck, we have a country to kind of run. We got an election that we kind of got to win. What happens? Oh, they got to pull the money from somewhere. Where does that money come from? It comes from the equity market in the United States because it's at all-time highs. So you're seeing money just move from one place to the next. The problem is everyone's caught at the top of this market right now, and it's a very dangerous market to be caught in. That's why we're seeing these warning signs across the board. We're seeing gold obviously shoot up because that's something that's taken away from the equity market. We're also seeing, let me just pull up the dollar real quick. The dollar right now, 106. 216 broke well above. We were buying, actually, I was buying the dollar right around here, around 102. I mean, we're at 106 right now. And I don't think that we're going to stop. I think that over the next year or so, the dollar is going maybe even to all-time highs, at least higher than back here in 2022, because it's just going to be such a huge demand for it. So if this yen carry trade unwinds to the point where the Bank of Japan has to intervene to save the yen in order to save its country, you're going to see all that U.S. debt sold off. U.S. is going to have to let the equity markets kind of pull back, and then you're going to see the U.S. Treasuries absolutely squeeze. And how do I know this? I don't. But how can I look at this and say maybe there is some signs that that's going to happen? Well, I'm looking at the TLT, and it looks like it's been in this bullish pattern. And if I'm looking at this as just pattern trading, this is a bull flag, and I would expect this to pop up from here. It doesn't have to, but it does line up with the fact that we could be on the verge of this yen carry trade. We're seeing a lot of these equities starting to pull back, and there's no buyers. They're getting no bids. I think that we're kind of setting up the perfect storm for a black swan event in the equity market, at least.
Yeah, VIX having a hell of a day also, just over 19, on its way to 20. What in the
1940 is the high.
TradFi streets do you want to look at? I mean, it is just red across the board. Tesla getting hit hard, Netflix getting beat up pretty good as well. Anything there that you think is worth looking at? We want to head over to crypto.
Let's just do a quick run through. Nothing too crazy in TradFi. I do want to say that Tesla's getting its ass kicked because 10% of its workforce is getting a pink slip. I don't know what people thought. Tesla going to 300 or some of these Kathy Wood expectations of like 1,000, 2,000 or something like that. They are an automotive company. Nothing's going to change on that front. Yes, they're doing a lot of good things. I think they're going to be fine in the future. But at the end of the day, their biggest seller is vehicles. And if we're seeing motherfuckers not being able to pay off their credit card, they're definitely not going to get approved to buy this damn car, right? Especially if rates are 5.5. These banks aren't going to approve any loans. That's stupid. So yeah, we're going to continue to see stuff like this across the board. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple is not too far away. I'm looking at the chart for Apple. It had this really good rally, right? It's a double bottom kind of. However, you're still below the 15 and the 200 moving averages right here. And just so you know, you got two massive gaps down here, and that could take us probably into the 150s. I mean, that's a pretty good move that we could see there. I saw that their foreign iPhone sales were down 9 or 10% or so. That came in last night. I think that was data from China. So that's showing you that there is less demand for a lot of these Apple products. And again, the Vision Quest, I don't know how much money was poured into that. I don't know if that thing is going to be profitable. Find out in earnings call. That should be fun. But they're going to continue to do things that are probably going to be kind of loss leaders at this point. I don't think they're going to make any money for a few years if they're going to continue to see consumers being strapped like this. But the last thing we can take a look at on the tech front, or I guess the TradFi front, is Nvidia, right? Nvidia has been having some trouble lately. I mean, it's been trading kind of down from it hasn't tested back in the 900s, at least that high. The closest we got was here a few days ago, and it got rejected kind of from it. right? Next day, we're trading below it. 50 moving average is right here around 1818. I have not seen anything about any famous people closing their positions, their calls on NVIDIA. So I don't necessarily know if the bottom or the top has been put in yet, but we can kind of assume right now that the AI hype has definitely died down. I don't think anyone's talking about AI as much as they were, 2, 3 months ago. So that's kind of another thing that's really fun to see, because then it shows you that, okay, well, maybe retail's hauling at the top up here. Um, it's funny to see how Nvidia's died down in terms of hype, and now we're looking at other things in the markets. Gold, everyone's going crazy about gold now. Bitcoin still, but yeah, and I'll show this one last thing before we get into crypto, because this is funny too. This is the reverse repo. Reverse repo plummets to $327 billion, down from 407 billion. That's a huge drain. The other thing is it's only 62 counterparties, down from, I believe, 73 or so from the last take from the reverse repo. Tells you a few things. Tells you that, one, there's less people that have money floating around in the reverse repo, and two, there's a lot less liquidity that's pulling around so that they can park overnight. Now, how is that a problem? We saw the same exact thing going into February 2020, before the markets absolutely tanked. And plus, on top of that, the Bank Term Funding Program, they should be paying that back exactly to the way that they borrowed it. They're not. There's about a $40 billion shortfall from or discrepancy between what they paid on the date a year ago today to what is paid on this date today. So that's a huge discrepancy. What does that mean? It probably means that they have some bad collateral. The Fed is taking on those losses. I don't know. That doesn't seem like the system is in a good place to keep buying your market up. So when I look at TradFi, there's a lot of signs that, hey, maybe May ain't the month for anybody. I don't think it might be, but we can move into crypto now, because I've definitely rambled on.
Maybe the summer ain't for anybody, and we just maybe the fall is a little bit rough too, and then maybe we run this turbo in 2025. Who knows?
I am bullish when Jamie's bullish. That probably is the best metric for me personally. But yeah, let's pull up crypto. Damn, I didn't even see Bitcoin drop that much. It's about almost $3,000 down. So wow,
It gave back all of yesterday's gains.
and look at that, man. And that bounce that you said, it's a dead cat bounce. The thing is, it didn't come and test this channel up here. That it should have probably right after that news. It didn't, and we did today. We whipped right up to it, and it got rejected right off of it. I mean, look at that. It's like touching it right to the tip of there of that candle, just the tip, gentle. But then it's probably going to come down here, and I mean, test this 60,000 level again. Now the thing is, if you lose that 60,000, watch out. You got an $8,000 drop for Bitcoin coming. I'm sorry. I know it's oversold. It is oversold, but it can stay oversold for a period of time, just like it stayed overbought for a period of time, right? 2 candles, 1 candle, maybe 1 wick down to 52K or so. It's very possible. Find some support on the 200 EMA, maybe a trade between the 50 and the 200 for a period of time. But this is not a bullish setup for Bitcoin anymore. You're finding support here, but this is 3 times you found this neckline. You find it one more time, I don't think it's going to hold. Maybe it does. Who knows? But the price is being very volatile here. Dominance is extremely high, and we've seen the alts drop 15 to 20%, even some as much as 25% over the weekend. So when we look at
those meme coin bags, probably aren't feeling quite as strong right now as they were a few weeks ago.
You're telling me that all the stupid fucking coins that were on Solana's blockchain that were offensive as shit aren't doing well because there's no one to buy those up?
Can't believe it.
Future
hey,
of
listen,
finance,
maybe
guys.
it's a good time to buy. Listen, maybe it's a good time to buy some Pepe, some Mog. I don't know. Some Whiff. I don't know. That's not my. It's not my thing.
I'll buy some
hey,
Whiff out.
yeah, there you go. All right. So we touched on Bitcoin. I say we touch hit on a few alts and then we call it a day.
Absolutely.
ETH is getting ETH is holding up better today than most other cryptocurrencies, but it's still on the verge of giving back yesterday's gains and moving below a key level. And 2,400 doesn't feel like it's too far away at this point.
Yeah, not at all, right? I think that 2,400 is actually a really good level. I think between 2,400 and just under 2,700, it really depends on if that 200 moving average holds for ETH. The question is, what does Bitcoin do, right? And how high is dominance at that point? How is Tether dominance holding up at that point too? Because I think that you lose that 200 and all those things are in bad shape. 2,400 is definitely in the cards for ETH. And at that point, is ETH going to put in a new high in this B wave? I don't think so. I think that it might be over for ETH, and we're probably going to have to follow this trend to the downside, right? That's going to be
another nice move to the upside on the VIX, 19.43 now, and that went with everything else taking a leg down in TradFi. So,
guys, Japan is that's what you want to watch tonight. See how they react. But that's also for crypto too. Asia's going to
no
be
sleep for Kevin this evening. Maybe a quick nap after the show, and then it's time to watch the Asian markets.
And I don't even think I'll watch Asian markets. Let's put it this way: I could go to sleep now, knowing that Asia's in panic and they got to do something pretty soon. So I think these markets will be turning. But looking at ETH right here, I completely agree that's going to be the level we want to see these moving averages hold. If they don't hold, then you're probably going much lower, and you got to find support lower. But big picture, didn't put in a new high for ETH. None of the alts did, maybe one or two, but this means that, coming back down to, what was it, $888 or so, that was the low that we got back in June. I wouldn't be surprised if we put in a new low, guys. That's 636 level, that's $700 level for ETH, it's still on the table. Let's take a look at the total market caps, because those are important just as much, or just as well, I should say. This total 3 looks like the alts are done. You're trapped between the 50 and 200. You're probably going to coil up in there unless you get a really bad candle and you're coming down. But I do think that 540 billion is not too far off. I mean, we almost hit it on Saturday, I believe. Yeah, we almost hit it Saturday. It came down to about 560. So we're just about 20 billion short of touching that. It's got a lot of more. I would say there's a lot more room to the downside for this too. Because again, the B wave didn't go higher than the A wave. It didn't meet it. So we're probably looking at somewhere between, I mean, this is low, guys. This is really fucking bad. It's 182 billion and 115 billion dollars. So take your favorite altcoin and subtract,
kiss it goodbye.
81%. That's possible for it to go down. And I'm talking about your Cardanos, your XRPs, your AVAXs. All those are kind of in that range, are possible of going that low if this is what's happening. The other thing is too that we didn't talk about. Well, let's talk about this first. USDT dominance actually rose recently because there has been a sell-off. Now, this level that we're currently at, last time we were here, I believe, was May of 2022. What happened in May of 2022? Terra Luna. And then we had Three Arrows Capital, right? And Bitcoin was obviously at a different price point. It was a lot lower, but now where we're sitting and with, kind of where we are, we bounced right off that trend line. Looks like we're going to make our way to the upside, because if I'm not mistaken, if we look at this on the weekly, it looks like we're, oh shit, I pressed the wrong button. If we're looking at it on the weekly, if we look at the monthly, the monthly has plenty of room to the upside. So there could be, I'm not saying it's going to be crashed to zero, but I'm thinking there's a pretty good move and a sell off that is coming if dominance is kind of bouncing off of this. We're going to have to wait and see that if the 50 moving average here on the monthly, we start closing above it, then I'd be very concerned for the entire crypto market. I think that would be worst case scenario. And the other thing is too, we were talking about this just a few minutes ago. We can kind of wrap with this. That is FDUSD. How many of you guys remember that entire shenanigans that was pretty much BUSD to TUSD to FDUSD? I talked about Janet Yellen last week, going after banks that were in China that were going against the sanctions that they had set on Russia, doing business with them. Funny thing about that, this bank that houses FDUSD, I believe, is in Hong Kong. FDUSD is a Hong Kong operated, operation. I won't call it an exchange, even though they're pretty much the ones who are running Bitcoin's price with the highest amount of volume on Binance. But there's a lot of evidence. People are starting to realize that, hey, this kind of seems wild. And now Row Rider, who we always feature on the show when it comes to a lot of this tether fraud and stuff like that, there's a mountain of evidence that FDUSD is not fully backed, and Binance intentionally launched it to wash, trade, and manipulate major crypto pairs, especially BTC and ETH. That's something that you and I both said several times in the show in the past. It made no sense how a stablecoin that's only available on one exchange is accounting for all the volume across all of crypto in terms of the top. And now there's a massive black swan that almost nobody has been watching until now. It could be bigger than Terra Luna. You said that earlier. I think that it's very possible. If these alts that were holding, these stablecoins that weren't holding up the market kind of aren't backed by anything, Tether, USDC, we don't know who's operating properly at this point. If it's not backed, there's a good chance that we could see Bitcoin and crypto fall significantly, right? Especially dominance is high for both. See those pull back, alts would absolutely bleed, which kind of plays into our scenario. And even worse than that, is what happens if the DOJ gets involved, right? If we find out that there's a fraudulent stablecoin entity that is manipulating the price of a publicly traded asset, the Bitcoin ETFs, by pumping and minting these coins in order to circulate volume into these exchanges to push the price up, also known as sometimes as spoofing, not spoofing directly, but they're also spoofing. That pretty much tells you that, hey, they might have to get a stranglehold on this these stablecoin market, which was my worst fear. And I also thought that it was very possible with a lot of the tether speculation that we had last year around CZ and Binance. Now, if that's the case, bye bye all your favorite stablecoins that were holding up this market. You probably see what the true value of some of these assets are. It's going to be a lot of people hurt in ETF market that probably had no exposure to crypto before this, and you're going to see a lot of people in crypto who are holding stables because they're not sure what to do. Well, what happens if those are sanctioned or they are not allowed to operate in the U.S. or they're going to be regulated to a point where it's like, yeah, they have to be back to back. If not, you're going to probably see stagnant price movement. You won't see as much volatility in crypto, obviously after major crash, but it's just a scenario I'm laying out. One that I have not given up on because I do think that there is going to be a depegging of some sort that will impact the markets.
All right. You heard it here first, folks. Ace, GM, good to see you. We are wrapping it up for today, but do not fear. We'll be back tomorrow at our regular time. Same time, same place. So if you have not yet, please do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, drop some comments, all that stuff. Like I said, tomorrow, 3 Eastern, our normal time, just like today. We'll be doing that tomorrow. I believe Wednesday and Thursday. No show Friday. Kevin is off to earn some greenbacks so he can eventually buy the dip. But plenty to talk about throughout the week. Thank you all for being here. Stay safe in these markets, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.